Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We are back. Oh, hi.
Hello.
Ananya, give me 1 second. I'll put you. I'll call you back. I don't know why that went up. I'm sorry about that. We do a little introduction first. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this episode of the AI Show. My name is Seth. We have been on out of town for a little bit, but we are back. So what's new with everybody? Tell us where you are, where you're coming from. Put it in the chat. All side of the eye. Side of the eye. Look at the chat. Side of the eye. I'm excited to be here. Let's see what we've got going on today. Share my screen here. Boom! Number one today, we've got Codex-mini. Oh, man, my writing is so bad. Codex-mini! With Ananya and Govind. This is good stuff. The thing I like about it is, well, you'll see. You can use this stuff from the CLI. Yeah. Which makes it really cool. And that's the part that I thought was kind of cool. Number two. By the way, this one we recorded last week, like on Thursday, or was it Friday? I don't remember. So it's fresh stuff, fresh. And then we have Trustworthy Agents. This is with Sarah Bird. We did not record this one beforehand. She is going to show up cold, and we're just going to talk about Trustworthy Agents for a bit. So that's what we got today. This is starting in a minute. This one's starting in a minute here. Yes, we're starting this one here, and then this is at the top of the hour. We'll do Trustworthy Agents with Sarah Bird. But tell us where you're coming from. I'd love to get to know each and every one of you. And you know what? One of the things I'd like to do, I'd love to have more segments where we actually take a look at what folks are doing with AI now. Because I know there's a lot, we do a lot of hypotheticals in this space. It's like, hey, look at this. We could do this. We could do that. But I'd love to have like the real deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we're doing great stuff, kind of thing, you know? I want you to be able to share that kind of stuff with us. I'm trying to see what buttons I have here. So we could have you come on and be like,
I made the greatest app ever, and I want to share it with you.
And I'd be like, you know, that's great. Tell us a little bit about how you're making AI is changing your life.
Well, it changes my life every day. Every day.
That's amazing. So I think we should have segments like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you're interested, drop us a line. Well, the other thing we wanted to do is get you the ability to know what's coming up next, because we kind of like share what's coming up next, but only like the week before, or like the day before. So maybe we can do that a little bit more as well. Okay. Now, Ananya and Govind, you ready? Sorry, I had y'all come up early for some thumbs up if we're ready to go. Okay, so here's Govind. Govind's here. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Seth. Good. How are you?
Fantastic. By the way, Govind, we scratched the surface of stuff with this episode. We wanted to do more stuff. I remember talking about that, right?
Yeah, we have a lot more. So
yeah, we gotta do more of that stuff. Okay. So and then Ananya, are you ready? Let me give you a thumbs up here.
Here, I think you just disabled my camera. Okay, I see.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice. All right. So we are excited for our episode today. I figured we'd you folks okay sticking around for questions?
Yeah.
All right. So let me get this going here so that people can see the goodness that we have and playing it right now. You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about Codex-mini, fast scalable code generation for the CLI era. Make sure you tune in. Hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about Codex-mini, fast scalable code generation for the CLI era. I've got a couple of friends with me. Why don't you introduce yourselves? We'll start with you, Govind.
Hi, Seth. My name is Govind. I'm part of our global black belt team. I'm a technical director.
If you don't know global black belts at Microsoft, they're awesome. That's all I'm going to say. Make sure if you see one, say hi, and they'll tell you awesome stuff. Ananya, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi Seth. I'm Ananya, and I'm a technical program manager at Azure AI.
Amazing. So let's talk about Codex-mini as a starter. What is Codex-mini, and how should people think about this particular model? Because there's so many different kinds of models. How is this flavor different from the others? What can people do with it?
Yeah, of course. So Codex-mini is a lightweight, fast-responding AI model, and it is great for code generation, debugging, and even for understanding the code snippets. So the reason why it's amazing is because developers often find themselves where they want like a coding assistance, which can help in like creating code, which is low latency and it's very efficient. So yeah, Codex-mini helps in that. And I think Govind can help give us more context over here and show us what it can do.
Absolutely. So just a couple of questions for you, Anya. So basically, Codex-mini is a large language model, but it turns out that the language that it's trained on is not human language. Like, it's code. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes. So it can create code with natural language prompts. So you can ask it like simple questions, and it can create like code bases for it. So you can ask simple questions like create like a Python, like create a website using Python, and it would be able to do that. So it's pretty cool in that way.
All right. So Govind, I feel like I need to see this wizardry in action. Let's share your screen and let's see what we got. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Do you have any ideas that you want to create, by the way?
Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay. Rhiannon, one of our show producers, we've been talking about how to make maybe a website for the AI show. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, before I do that, let me help the viewers how they can get started with Codex-mini on their own, right?
Okay.
So first, and Codex CLI. So the way you interact with Codex-mini is through Codex CLI. And you first need the model deployed. So as Ananya alluded to, you can go to ai.azure.com, go to the models pane here, right? And when you go there, you'll be able to, of course, when it asks for NPS, just hit 10, by the way.
That's right.
And you would deploy your model. It's super easy to do that. You would just select through the model picker, and then once your model is there, as you can see here for me, you can then copy the configuration for that model. So that would be the endpoint and the key. And then you would install Codex CLI. So we actually have a whole blog, and we'll paste it in the chat here. And in this blog, I also kind of cover the pull request that we contributed to. So we work very closely with OpenAI to add support for Azure OpenAI. So once you have that,
so let's pause. Let me ask a question here, Govind, before we get started. Sorry to interrupt. So is the CLI something is the Codex CLI something I need to install separately? How is that done?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, so either in Windows you're going to have to use WSL, or in Mac, pick your favorite terminal. In this case, I'm using Warp, and you just need to do brew install Codex, and that's it.
I see. So this is like a legit CLI for interacting with the model. So the model's in the back end. That way we don't have to do REST calls to the actual model. We just interact via the CLI. Am I getting this right?
That's right. And you do need to configure the CLI to use your model. So here I have this config.toml. Again, that blog has all the things that you need to do. One of which is to set up a Codex CLI to use that Azure OpenAI model that we just deployed, right? So you would you can kind of see it's very easy to follow, really. I mean, you have your model provider, you have the environment key that you're going to have to pass, and some other configuration options, right?
And
So
I see that there's some MCP.
yeah,
I'm
good
looking
catch.
at those MCP servers in there. What is that for it to be able to interact with external services as well?
That's right. So we have we really have more than model weights, right? We have tool integrated reasoners, and Codex-mini is one of those, right? It's a reasoning. It's part of the reasoning family of models, right? So as part of its reasoning sort of process, it can use MCP servers that you configure it with, and in this case, technically, Codex CLI is orchestrating that. And what you see here is our Microsoft Learn MCP server. So. Exactly. So, when I ask it to create this AI show website, let's say using Azure AI Foundry Agent Service, it's going to go to Learn MCP server and configure it with the latest, SDK usage.
It's almost like it has the ability to look at the MCP, look at the actual Learn docs as it builds stuff, which is kind of nice.
Exactly, just like a junior software developer.
Oh my goodness, this is amazing. So I get that. So put the model up, install the CLI, set up do the settings, and you're ready to go. You'll have this in whatever terminal. Warp looks really cool, actually. I'm looking at it, but it would work in whatever terminal you've got going for you in
That's
WSL or Mac. Okay, all right. So let's see this in action. What do we got?
Yeah, so it's as easy as typing codex, and then it opens up this thing, and you have all these / commands here. You can, initialize this agents.md file, so you can give it more instructions, or you can, create prompts, etc. So in this case, actually, you can, again, as Ananya said, you can ask in natural language, right? So I'm just going to tell it create a new AI show website for Juarez, right? And of course, you would, as humans, spend a lot more time here writing detailed acceptance criteria for what you want. In this case,
if you let's just say you have specific styles and ways, you would put that in the agents.md file to give it more context on how to build. Like, for example, if I really want Next.js or I want to use Nuxt.js, or whatever.
Whatever. Okay. Actually, I'll show you. So let me start this, and while it's going on, now what you see here is it is obviously it's a reasoning model, and it's using Responses API behind the scenes, so you can kind of see its thought process as well. And while it's working, let me show you. I went ahead and did it ahead of time, in the interest of time.
Okay.
Let me show you the agents.md file that I have here, right? So if I were to cat this, you can kind of see how detailed it is, right? So it has kind of what to use for backend. Oops, here, let me just VI. Sometimes with Warp, it gets tricky. So as you can see here, I have kind of like my front end, and actually, one second. I think. Let me make sure I'm in the right folder. Show notes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see here, I mean, I thought I had more, but you can actually here describe your front end, etc.
Yeah, and this is cool. Like, I'm looking at this. Like, for me, I love writing like fast API backends, and then I have different front ends. So this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Do want to kind of show, one second, maybe it's in here as well. And every repo you can kind of configure this agents.md file. So for each, okay, this is the one I was trying to show.
Cool.
So as you can see here, there's a bunch of guidelines, right? So anyway, with that, let me go ahead and go back to now working with CLI means you have to be really good with your commands.
Yeah.
So this
for me, it's special for me because I'll put our faces up. So because I'm like old school, I love using the command line. So this is actually really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm a huge fan of it.
That's great. Now this thing on the other pane, as you can see, it's running. It's going to do its thing. Now the good news is we already just had had a run with it, and I'm going to go ahead and show what it did. Again, one shot. We didn't iterate. We didn't really go back and forth. Here's like a quick sort of page, a few episodes, some
tags.
Tags, exactly. I was call them chips. I don't know, but yeah, tags are fine. And here's a chat view, and this is actually built. The backend is built on AI agent service. So if I were to just say hello, it's going to fail, but it's going to fail telling me to, hey, configure your project endpoint for Azure AI agent service.
Hold
right?
on. Just to get things in order. So effectively, this is something that you built beforehand because it's kind of like a bacon show, and you just asked it to build an AI show. What was the prompt you gave it that made it so that it built this?
Yeah. So in agents MD file, I told it to use Azure AI Foundry Agent Service. So that's what you see here. One second. Let me just quit this. It was in the other agent.
Yeah, let's go to that one. Because that is actually really cool, and I'd love to see, because it's not just a question of like typing in a prompt. It's actually the context that you give it to that actually really matters, right?
100%.
Okay, so let's take a look at this so that folks can get a sense for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I told it, hey, use this backend and use certain front end styles that I have. And for backend agents, I actually told it to use Azure AI Foundry Agent Service, and the endpoint should be on, and things like that. And then because I configured it with, and you can kind of see here, install Azure AI Agent CLI, and then I configured it with our Learn MCP server. It can go and search on usage of how Foundry SDKs work, right? And then it was able to implement the backend. And by the way, just to kind of show you the backend.
Yeah, I'd love to see the actual the code that it made too.
Maybe I'll for that. I think I'll probably open in code.
Okay, let's do it.
It's better that way. Code. Yeah, it's probably better this way. Here we go. Okay. So I'm running a WSL. That's the problem.
Okay.
So let me just kind of open here in this code. 1 second. Actually, in the interest of time, I'm just going to cat the file.
Yeah, let's just look at one file.
Yeah, let's just look at one file. So let me just go to backend, right? It would be in, let's just do agents client.py.
Let's do it.
Here we go. So if you notice here, here's usage of Azure AI Foundry Agent Service, right? You can kind of see it has the environment variables that it needs, generate show notes. Here's the agent's client, how it's creating the agent, creating thread for that agent, right? So all of this, I did not tell it to do, right? I just configured it with the MCP server of Learn, and I told it at a very high level in agents.md file, hey, use Azure AI Foundry Agent Service. So we used a SWE agent, a software engineering agent, like Codex, to create agent.
I mean, this is really cool. And effectively, like, for example, I'm looking at this right now. I'm like, my dev hackles came up. I'm like, oh no, time.sleep. I wonder if I could make this async. I bet I could ask Codex to be like, hey, can you look at this file and make it an async implementation? And it would be able to do something like that too, right?
100%. So I can just spin up Codex right now on this repo. And I'll just and again, it tries to be secure.
No, that's smart. I like that.
Yeah.
Like that. I know that went really fast, but it basically was like, hey, are you okay if I work on this or not? And I like that.
Yeah. I'll just say make the backend endpoints async, right? So it's gonna, get to work. It's going to first create a plan, and then it's going to, there you go. That's the sort of to-do list, just like a developer. And then it's going to go through each one of those and complete them, and iterate with the files, iterate with any MCP tools that it is configured with, etc.
This is so cool.
And
like,
the cool thing is,
as it's working, and I know we were like this is, I want folks to know this is like real code. Like as we're going through, like these are actual folders and stuff, and the fact that you were able to make something. How long did it take to make the original website?
Yeah, so my part of that was only like maybe 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then it was asynchronously able to do that in probably 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the thing that I want to highlight, right? Defaults are shifting. I mean, we
Okay.
see this with search, we see this with, and we're seeing that with SDL, software development lifecycle, right? And this is where I think we need to evolve our developer workflows, where we're going to be focused more on the pre-code gen and the post-code gen, which is context engineering. And I didn't do a good job, to be honest with you, because for your new AI show page, I needed to work very closely with you to like understand your pain points, your use cases, etc., and create those MD files, right? And your non-functional requirements, etc., and configure with MCP tools, and then assign to an army of agents to code. I can also use agents to understand the problem, right? And this is where, of course, in this case, we're focusing on OpenAI's Codex with Azure AI Foundry. And then once it's done, it actually can submit a pull request, right? You can take that code and then you have to verify what it did and test it, right? So this is where I have, this is more on how to configure Codex. But in the interest of time, I also want to show that I have another site, and we'll have this in below, called asyncloom.com. And here you can kind of configure with all the other agents that we have on Azure. So you can, for example, in this case, for Codex, you can pick Codex. You can, have your task description. For example, let's say you want Codex to asynchronously run every time a developer submits a commit or has a pull request. For example, adding more unit tests, right?
Right.
And you can get that Azure OpenAI API key, and then you can add this to your in your .github folder, so that it can run asynchronously in a GitHub action.
I see. Okay, so I was confused with that. So this is basically creating a YAML file for a GitHub workflow, so that you can add additional unit tests when you check code in. So that thing that you just showed on the CLI enables you to make Codex do even more work for you on your behalf when you check in. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't have to run in your process, right? Like right here, it's running on my local process, my local computer. I mean, it is still asynchronous, but this takes it to the next level, like you said. So,
oh my goodness! And the cool thing about this is that, for example, there's unit tests on pull requests that I might not even imagine I need to do. That Codex can literally just write for me and be like, I found a problem with your pull request here's a unit test that shows that particular problem. That's really cool.
Yeah, and exactly. And the thing is that there's also other things that I didn't cover, but you can configure Codex with. And by the way, if you notice, while we're talking, you have 2 Codex sessions running in parallel, right? One is creating the site from scratch. This other one that's converting to async. And we can spin up more, but the other thing that I want to quickly cover is how Codex can be configured with, and it has a ton of knobs. You can go to Codex's main sort of repo if you want, or I'll just show you what I have configured with. And here there's something called config.md file. And you can kind of see all the knobs that you can that it exposes, that you can configure it with. For example, MCP servers was one thing that we saw. But in addition to that, we can give it remote access permissions. So for example, being able to go on websites and maybe understand about some problem or get recent information before tackling a problem, etc., right? Or being able to configure the model's reasoning effort. Maybe you don't want to spend more on some tasks like updating changelog MD or something like that.
This is all really cool stuff. So basically, you have an entire here. I'll remove this. You have an entire mini dev in a box helping you get certain tasks done. This is awesome, Govind. Ananya, where can people go to find out more? I know there was a couple of blog posts. Tell us about what's in this blog post that people can look at.
We have the blog post and AKA links where we have described how to use Codex, how to install it, and what are its advantages and where you can use it. So it's great. I think we have another one. So
This one right here.
right here, right. So this shows exactly how you can create agents with it and like how exactly to use Codex.
Well, this has been amazing. We should have you come on again, Govind, sometime soon, and Anya, to maybe show like the next level. I'd love to dive into like the GitHub Action stuff and see some of that in action, because that feels even more super cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us, my friends.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. We've been learning all about Codex-mini, fast, scalable code generation for the CLI era here on the AI Show. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care. How about them apples? Let's get Govind and Ananya back. Hey, yo.
What's
That
up?
was awesome. So, question for y'all. Anything that, because we watched the whole thing, watching in retrospect is always cool. Anything that you're like, we totally should have said this or that? Anything we missed? Govind or Ananya?
I mean, there's a lot, honestly. I know we had to cut off pieces, but for developers, really, that GitHub Actions piece, I think you ended the sort of episode with that. That makes it even more powerful, right? The idea here is you can parallelize your development efforts for tasks that are well defined with good acceptance criteria. Like, I mean, if they, you do a lot of demos, right, Seth? If you think about how if you break down that work for some of the demos you did with Satya or whoever, you could have assigned it to Codex and had it kind of run while you focus on the ambiguous stuff. I don't know.
No, it's true, because like there's a lot of like making sure that the pixels are exactly right on the website business that I could have had to do. There's a lot of like Ananya, you probably know this too, but there's the dev toil of like setting up a project, doing the unit test, which is important work, but it's nicer to be able to like offshore that kind of thing to the actual Codex model. Is that the thinking here?
Right. Yes.
80-20 rule too.
80-20. So any other, like, I'm coming out of focus, I don't know why. Any other thoughts about where people should, because I noticed that the CLI is a very specific kind of workflow. Are there any other ways to do this other than the CLI? And if people are like, well, are considering using it, why should they consider using the CLI? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, so I think Claude Code, I'll just say it, is very popular right now.
Yeah.
Right. And this is OpenAI's equivalent to that. And GPT-5 is a pretty powerful model. I know we're talking about Codex-mini for this show, but you can also, change that model name to GPT-5. And this ability, again, to quickly scaffold apps, do that 80-20, right, through CLI is powerful. But again, you can also run it as in GitHub Action Runner. And the other way is you can assign issues to GitHub Copilot Coding Agent, right? That's another place where you can get power with this asynchronous, new dev workflow. So
that makes sense to me. So now, okay, now I get it. So I think this is the bit that the high order bit that I think I missed, because it's a CLI based thing, and that's why you're like, we should have spent more time on the workflow stuff. It's there when you're doing automatic things where the CLI is actually more powerful, and I think that's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah, I do think IDEs are also going to change, are going to evolve, because these models are tool integrated reasoners that you can trust for to do long running tasks, right? So look, code completion is nothing new. It's been going on for 3 years, right? GitHub Copilot completing code. Now it's just that the amount of code it can write, and it can, kind of grep through your file system, use tools, reason over that response, go back and forth, just increased, right? The model's capability is just going up and up because of RL and things like that. So I just think like you as a developer, and you already see this, where it's becoming more of a spec-driven development. You're writing specs, those MD files that we talked about, where you wanted Next.js, you wanted Nuxt, you wanted certain colors. We could have written all of that in that MD file, and it would ground itself to that file and use the tools that it has and actually meet the acceptance criteria that you defined.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this is odd. I'm really starting to get a sense for like the CLI is awesome for automating the toil, irrespective of where you're doing it. Because obviously you're saying IDEs will change, but having a way to be able to generate code to do stuff that I think is awesome. Well, thank you so much, my friends.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
All right, and all right, thank you. This is cool. All right, next we should give him a round of applause. I think. Let's see if I can. All right, Sarah's here. How's it going, Sarah?
Great. How are you?
Fantastic. So, by the way, if you don't know, Sarah is one of our few guests that just shows up and rattles off from the top of her head the knowledge. I'm pretty excited. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm great. I'm enjoying summer in New York. It's been a long time since we got to hang out on the show, but we got to hang out in Japan, which was pretty cool.
That's right.
too.
I totally forgot about that. We were both in Japan doing. I was doing a keynote, and you were doing some RAI sessions. Is that right?
Talking about the same topic, how we make agents trustworthy. People in Japan care about this. People everywhere care about it. That's why I'm here to talk about it today.
I love it. All right, well, let's do it. So we're gonna we're done, but now we're gonna do the actual show. So I'm gonna I don't know if I should button my top, but no. We want to be friendly and casual. All right, you ready?
Yeah, totally.
You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about trustworthy agents with my friend Sarah Bird. Make sure you tune in. Hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about trustworthy agents. AI agents, though. We gotta be specific because you mean AI agents, right?
I really don't know how to help anything but the AI agents.
That's right. Not the secret agents. We're not those kinds.
I'm not qualified for that.
So let's talk first, and I think this is the important bit because in the morass of terminology that's been spewed forth in this particular segment, can you tell me what you consider an agent to be? And once we get that, can we get a sense for like, hey, why should people not trust them? Because I think that's the first thing, the zero trust that they ingrain in us. So let's start with agents and then maybe some risks and stuff. Let's go with that.
I think in some ways it doesn't really matter what an agent is. I know everyone loves to start with the definition of it, but there are a couple properties of whatever your definition of an agent is that matter, I think, in the story of what we need to do to build them in a way that is trustworthy.
Right.
And so first of all, let me say something about trustworthy, because I think trustworthy is a really important term here, because it's not only that you trust the agent, but they're actually worthy of your trust, right? We see all the time that people trust in technology that they shouldn't. And so the goal is to get to a place where that trust is actually well placed. And so that's why, I've been using the term trustworthy agents. And what matters about an agent from my point of view, one, that they do larger amounts of work more autonomously. And so that, and we can talk about this a little bit later, that changes the role of human oversight and where humans fit in the loop. And that's part of what's so exciting about it, that you can actually have something go and maybe complete a whole task for you, or maybe multiple tasks, rather than having to watch it every minute. But it does change what we need to do. I think the second part that matters about agents is that a lot of them are using tools. And in the future, a tool might just be an agent and, definitions. But the point is they can pull together many different capabilities. And that means that there's more places that data can leak. That means that there's more actions they could take that are irreversible. And so their ability to take kind of major actions and do larger units of work are what really make it feel kind of different in terms of what we were doing as compared to like just a, RAG-based chat system.
Yeah, so I love the idea of trust and then worthiness of that trust, and those two. So can we get a little more specific on what are the kinds of risks? Because I always tend to think of this in terms of, like, I don't know, as engineers, we're always like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then we code around it. Can you give us a sense of like the kinds of risks that we need to be mitigating in this case, or thinking about or considering?
Yeah, so there's a study that came out this year that I really like, which is by the University of Melbourne and KPMG, and it looks at how people are using AI systems, how they feel about them, and they've surveyed, I think, almost 50,000 people around the world in 47 different countries. And another thing that's cool about this survey is that they actually had started it pre-ChatGPT. So we get to see the before and after of people having so much more AI in their everyday lives that they're aware of, because we all know we had AI before, but with generative AI, you know you're interacting with it. The average person knows that it's AI, and so it's different. And what we saw, unfortunately, is that across all of kind of the major trust dimensions, trust was going down, right? And so we see adoption going up. We see employers saying that they're going to deploy agents alongside their human workforce over the next 18 months. But trust in these systems is going down. And we would expect it the other way, where you become more familiar with them, you kind of build a working model and you trust it. And in the study, they kind of catalog a whole range of risk that people are worried about and why trust is going down. And I'm going to give you a framework that we've been using to think about that, because I really like kind of what this is saying. And the first is, people do not trust AI systems because of malfunctions. And I've actually been on the show talking about malfunctions a ton. Oh, the system hallucinates, or the system, makes some other kind of mistake. So in the case of agents, you can imagine it doesn't understand your intent. It goes off task. It picks the incorrect tool. All of those would be examples of malfunctions. But people are also concerned about misuse. Can someone, use a prompt injection attack on my system and cause it to leak sensitive data? Or can I use an agent to automate what was already problematic activity in the world, like criminal enterprises, scams, things like that? But the last element, which matters just as much, and particularly in this digital sort of working side by side with agents, this like digital labor conversation, is systemic risk. So what is the impact of the technology overall? And so people are worried about things like, are we going to be de-skilling humans? And we've seen that in the press a lot recently. Are we going to have job loss? Are we going to have loss of human connection? Because now I talk to an agent all day instead of talking to my coworker. And so when we think about making agents trustworthy, we cannot look only at one of these. If we fix all the malfunctions, people are still going to be worried about the other things. And so at Microsoft, we actually look across this, but it's very different tools that we need to do to address each of these. Malfunctions can be a lot more like tools for developers, where some of the systemic risk are things like regulations or, training programs or all sorts of different things. And so we have to look very broadly at how we address each of these risks.
So I love the framework, because as a developer, I tend to only think of malfunction, which is the one I love how you said that. But misuse is another huge one. But the one that I almost never think about is systemic, like regulatory issues with respect to usage. So those feel like, I'm glad you're here and telling us about that, because I always only thought about malfunction, but misuse and systemic are also super important and can sync or elevate what you're doing. How are you, Sarah, or Microsoft, helping us in those three areas?
Yeah, so malfunctions and misuse, there's some things we have to do a little differently for each of them, but also a lot that's the same. And so that is using a lot of what we've talked about before in terms of defense in depth and evaluations and things. But to make it more concrete, when we look at agents specifically, one of the things that's interesting about agents is that they're basically a new type of entity in our system. And so we already have users that can make errors. We already have applications that can, be hijacked, all sorts of things. So we have these entities already in our systems, users, devices, and applications. And so agents are just a new type of entity. And so one of the first things we're doing is taking our existing security and governance planes and adapting them to work for this additional entity. Because, for example, an agent, I might sometimes want it to behave as a user, right? I might want it to be able to interact on my behalf, but it doesn't mean I want it to have all the same permissions that I have as Sarah Bird. And it can't necessarily use all the proof of humanness type of things that we use to allow people to log in today. So that's kind of one side. And then for anyone that's watched any of the past episodes, it's also probably not surprising that it brings new types of risk. For example, I mentioned some of the earlier, the system going off task, getting confused, picking the wrong tool. And so the other thing we're doing is extending our systems to address those new specific types of risks we get in agents. And if we put those two together, it works great. And so bringing our existing, security story that's already been about protecting against malfunctions and misuses, but extending it for the new concept of agents and these new risks gets us a long way. But on the systemic risk side, there's actually kind of more like bigger picture work that has to be done there. And so, Microsoft just formed a whole new organization under Brad Smith that is focused on these bigger picture issues and looking for how we make sure that technology has very positive impact, but also that the world is ready for it. And ready for it can be everything from, as we said, regulations and best practices to actually different skilling programs. Microsoft, for example, put out LinkedIn Learning to help people learn how to use AI, and that has been massively adopted. And so there's no one thing that fixes all of these, but we've got a lot of experience that we get to build on.
I love the idea that, and this is the part where, look, you and I have had discussions, on our own about this stuff. The thing that drives me a little wacky is how we somehow, folks are like discarding the stuff that we've already done in security and in machine learning and be like, well, but this is a new age of AI. So what you're saying is that for the misuse and for the malfunctions, we already have a good set of practices for security, for ways of testing models to make sure they're doing the right thing, hallucinating. We've done this. So you need to use the standard things there plus a tiny bit more. Is that kind of what you're saying for those two easy ones?
Yeah, exactly. And so, for example, a key part of how a lot of our security systems work today is based on the concept of identity. And at Microsoft, we use Entra, and many people around the world use Entra to implement that. And Entra already has the concept of, okay, based on your identity, you have conditional access. You get access to this resource, or you don't get access because the device is out of date and it might have a security vulnerability. And so those foundational primitives of identity and conditional access, we don't need to go reinvent those. We just need to extend them to make sense in the context of an agent and what an agent would do. But we also need to know that now there's new ways that an agent could make a mistake or could be compromised. And so we also need to make sure that our detection systems, our guardrails, all of the behavioral boundaries we want to put in place take account for these new types of failure modes.
Yeah, and that's cool because the concept of a software having an identity is not new. We've been doing this with service principles forever.
And so thank goodness, because it would be horrible if we had to reinvent all of this. I don't know what we would do. So it's amazing that we have, a lot of the security, both at Microsoft, the security organization, but the field overall has figured out how to address a lot of these issues in patterns that work in everyday organizations.
And then the systemic ones, it's more of an education, but there's also things that you can do in the service to help people know. Because I remember seeing something in the service where it's like, how are you doing with the new EU regulation? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I think that part of, we've talked about this before, but part of making AI and humans work well together is making AI understandable for people. And so how we design the AI systems, the level of transparency, the user interfaces, really guide people into those happy collaboration patterns. And that can help you build the right mental working model and build more trust with the system and also be more successful. And so, I think this is super important in the conversation around vibe coding, where it's an incredibly powerful technique that can help you do a lot, but it doesn't help you do everything. And so the more we can design interfaces that help people when to know that this is the right tool for the job, or what other things you have to combine that with. You still need to go through your security reviews if you want to put that into production, I think can really help kind of put these pieces together. And you're right, we just hit a major milestone for the EU AI Act. The regulations for the GPI models are now in force. And what that means is general purpose AI models. There's now new requirements for the people that are providers or creators of those models around ensuring that they have the right level of testing and they're providing the right level of transparency. And so it's really exciting to kind of have one of the first globally impacting regulations have a major milestone taking effect, and customers are asking us about it. It's helped us have a more, let's say, sophisticated conversation with customers who say, okay, well, how are you doing this? And we're able to learn from each other and teach each other. And so, I think it's an important part of a healthy ecosystem.
And you touched upon this a little bit, but let's get into it a little bit more in depth. This notion of human oversight over AI. You started to talk about that a little bit with the vibe coding stuff, but can you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on that aspect of this whole topic?
Yeah, human oversight has been obviously it's a goal overall, and Microsoft's principles accountability is about humans being accountable for the systems that we develop and the systems that we use. But then I will say, in kind of the chat era, we could be a little, let's say, basic, where we just said, okay, well, the chat system makes mistakes, but there's a human user right there. So the human is in the loop at every step. And so we can just have the human, look at things and correct for errors. And obviously, we know that that's not perfect. And there were kind of early signs that that was never going to be enough, because we had people coming to us and saying, hey, we're building a coding system for people that don't code. And we'd say, okay, well, what happens if it makes an error? And they're like, oh, well, they'll just find the error. How? Right? And so it was already, clear that paradigm was not gonna solve the problem completely. But agents really puts this on steroids, because the whole point is you don't want to, review every single step that the agent is taking if we're going to get the full promise of the technology. And so the idea here is that we need to take humans from the inner loop to the outer loop. But that doesn't mean that we should have less human oversight. We just need a different way to do that. So, for example, in responsible AI, one of the things that we've been able to do, and you all get to benefit from this if you're using our AI systems or you're using our evaluation tools, is we've pushed a lot of the work now into creating really good automated evaluations to test our AI systems. And that's been amazing, because we can test many, many more things than we could before, because we only have so many experts, but we can run tests at scale. But we still need humans to certify that the testing system's actually working, right? So we have experts, periodically sample different examples and make adjustments. And so we feel confident in the automated testing system. Is it right 100% of the time? No, but it still allows us to achieve a good amount of oversight in what we think the systems are doing. And that's not the only mechanism we use. And so for agents, we're going to see the same thing, where we are going to end up having different interfaces that allow humans to provide oversight, whether that's in pre-deployment testing, whether that's in monitoring. So observability, that's why we've been investing so much in Foundry observability, are critical for agents. And those are all about human oversight. It's just not happening at the level of every single individual interaction.
And that's interesting, because I love the way how you're basically converting agentic processes into documenting what it's doing in a way that humans can consume and do oversight. Because then that tells me as a dev, when I'm using agentic patterns in my own software, I should really consider, hey, what are some irreversible actions, or what are some actions that maybe don't matter as much? And should I document for oversight, or should I ask for permission? And there's like a spectrum for building these things for oversight. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, and like, let's pretend you're building an agent that you just want to do one task really well over and over again. It's about automating something at scale for your company. The way you want to do that, I'm pretty sure you don't want to be on the hook every single day, all day, to review every task before the agent does it. You want to run tests that say, look, 99% of the time the agent gets it right. And when it doesn't get it right, we have guardrails in place that block it from doing anything problematic, and it knows to retry, let's say. And so what you want to review is the test, or you want to review ongoing monitoring that says 99% of the time it's getting it right. And again, the 1% of the time we have graceful fallback mechanisms that address the issue. And so it's about what you as the human want to be reviewing and when you as the human want to be intervening. And it's not at the level of every individual interaction. It just changes it's still the same thing, but it just changes when you do it and what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I remember long ago, right after, and I'm dating myself, right after 9/11, we were building some software that looked at risk, but the axes for risk is not just risk, but it's also impact. And so those two axes you need to consider. And so, for example, if the risk is low, but the impact is high, maybe in this case, you need to think about how to surface this as an oversight for humans. If the risk is super high, but the impact is super low, then maybe it's okay to have a dashboard. I mean, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. In terms of, I was throwing out 99% and 1% failure rate might be fine for some applications, but not others. But then it's how you can handle that failure. And so, a key mechanisms for agents is being able to go back to the human. You do have that human potentially who can, weigh in on a particular task. You just don't want to use it all the time. You can also look at like blocking and restarting. You can look at conditional access, gives you opportunities to go and request permissions to do things on rare events. So we're really looking at putting all of these different types of interventions together to allow you to handle everything from kind of benign failures to, much higher risk actions.
I love it. So any other things that that maybe we missed during this conversation that people should consider when it comes to trustworthy AI agents?
Yeah. I would just say a couple things, which is more to come. We're doing lots of work here. We're going to be really excited to show you more stuff in the future. But I know folks are getting started with agents today, and we're learning a lot from that. And so I think just what we've said from the beginning with AI, which is make sure you get started on, narrower, low stakes, figure out how to really use the tools well. And then you can kind of expand your ambition, right? So that you understand what is the cost of a failure, to say what we were just talking about. And so I think it's great if folks get started today, use the tools that, we already have, but then I think that we're going to have lots of new exciting stuff coming in this area as well.
I love it. So here's a skilling plan that they told us to show y'all to build secure and responsible AI solutions and manage generative AI lifecycles. So take a look at that. Thank you so much for being with us, my friend.
Yeah, glad to be here and looking forward to the next 6 months. I think it's going to be a pretty fun time.
Amazing. And thank you so much for watching and learning all about trustworthy AI agents with my friend, Sarah Bird. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care. Awesome, Sarah. You're just a one-take wonder. That was amazing. Thank you.
No, thanks for keeping it easy.
Yeah, because people don't know this. Well, some people know, but generally we pre-record these and then record them. But there's some people that we just like do it live. So thanks, Sarah.
Was the previous one pre-recorded?
Yes.
I was like, how do you make that transition very smooth?
Oh, I'm very good at clicking things, Sarah. It's just the nature of me. I'm a very good clicker on the.
Because I was watching to see if I could tell like when you switched back to like real you and not previous you, but I couldn't.
So yeah, basically I do this, but we do it beforehand, and then sometimes, like for example, if someone's new and they've never done like stuff like this, I want them to have like a level of comfort to where when they show up, it's their authentic show up self, because they don't have the pressure of I need to do a demo and have a talk. And so they when they answer, it's much more relaxed on the live part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, Sarah, we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. So, wow. We've had quite the show today. All right. How about them apples? By the way, Sarah's awesome. The thing that I like about Sarah is every once in a while we meet up in like a weird rant. Like the last part, we were in Japan for a thing. And we have these discussions. She's so smart. Way smarter than me. And so I love balancing ideas of like how I think and how she thinks. And it helps expand our notion of like, hey, we should really think about how we build these things in a different way. Like, for example, just the notion of the output of agentic systems being used for human oversight changes the way I think about this stuff, which to me is kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? All right. So next time on the AI show, we have 2 episodes: Smarter Model System with Naomi Moneypenny. She's amazing. That's next week. At the top of the show, and at the top of the hour, we'll have Beyond the Prototype Scaling Multi-Agent AI Apps with Azure Cosmos DB with James. We actually did those on Friday, just the other 3 days ago. They were awesome, and so make sure you tune in for those. It's all new stuff, all the time. And let's see. Hello, Shah. Thanks for coming, my friend. It's good to see you again. Nicholas, it's good to have you over coming from LinkedIn. Looks like someone's learning MCP. Here's the thing. It's not that I don't like MCP, but I feel like I got to do a show on like how you can use your current APIs as targets for function calling or tool calling, because I think like MCP is cool, but REST has been around for like 25 years, and there's like to Sarah's point, we already have some good constructs that we can use. It's cool to build new ones if it makes life simpler. Like I haven't used MCP as much as I would like to see where it makes things simpler. But if MCP makes your life simpler, great. But if it complicates things, then don't use it. Oh yeah, here's the notion of that was. Like I said, Sarah always gets us to think about this stuff a little bit more, which is cool. All right, well, my friends, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for spending your time with us, and hopefully we'll see you on the next AI show. Again, the show on Mondays is always live, and so make sure you tune in. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Take care.